5 years after the end of World War II, Americans were called to service yet again. This time, it was far across the Pacific in Korea. Joining us to introduce one of the great heroes of the Korean War, please welcome recording artist, actress, and television host, Kelly Pickler.
Thank y'all so much for coming together tonight and being a part of something that matters, right? Dawn, Sunday, June 25th, 1950, backed by artillery, North Korean forces stormed across the 38th parallel soon after American troops arrived to defend their South Korean allies. The Korean War had begun. Outnumbered and unprepared, the American forces were driven south to the brink of defeat. And yet, displaying uncommon courage, they rallied, pushed north, and secured the freedom of the South. With the story of one of the great heroes of the Korean War is Lawrence Fishburne.
Outside Las Vegas, May 1949. Teams of elite fighter pilots from the newly formed U.S. Air Force gathered for the inaugural Continental Gunnery Meet, known today as the Red Flag and remembered by history as the first Top Gun. They were the best of the best, testing their flying and weapon skills. Among the pilots was a team from the 332nd Fighter Group, the famed Tuskegee Airmen, the first African-American pilots in U.S. military history who had amassed an extraordinary record in the Second World War. Representing the 332nd was Reserve Pilot First Lieutenant Halbert Alexander, along with lead pilots First Lieutenant Harry Stewart, Captain Alva Temple, and 25-year-old First Lieutenant James H. Harvey III. By the end, the Tuskegee team stood at the top of the standings, winning the title of history's first Top Guns. In March 1943, Harvey was drafted into the Army. Still determined to fly, he applied for cadet training with the new unit of black pilots training at Tuskegee, Alabama. The Tuskegee Airmen had been gaining attention for the intensity of their training and their drive to prove themselves as pilots. After graduating from Tuskegee and completing flight training in April 1945, Lieutenant Harvey prepared to ship out to join his comrades in Italy. But before he could, Germany surrendered, ending the war in Europe. "Hitler knew I was coming," he would later joke. October 16, 1950, north of the South Korean capital of Seoul. Now a combat pilot, Lieutenant Harvey was leading a group of F-80 jet fighters back from a bombing mission in the north when they received a distress call. American soldiers were pinned down by several thousand enemy troops and needed immediate support. Banking toward the fight, Harvey's fighters sped toward their target. Locating the enemy position, Lieutenant Harvey attacked, inflicting heavy damage and relieving the beleaguered Americans. James H. Harvey III was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for his actions that day and would go on to fly 126 combat missions. He was the first African-American jet pilot to fly missions during the Korean War, all less than 8 years after he had been rejected for service with the Army Air Corps. It was a fitting vindication for the Tuskegee Top Gun, who proved himself not merely a good pilot, but one of history's best.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tuskegee Top Gun Lieutenant Colonel James H. Harvey III.
You are a Tuskegee Airman. You are the winner of the first Top Gun ever. Sir, what would you like to say on behalf of your comrades from the legendary Tuskegee Airmen?
We weren't supposed to have the mentality to fly aircraft or operate heavy machinery. We were inferior to the white man and we were nothing. But we proved them wrong. Definitely proved them wrong.
Yes, you did. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Lieutenant Colonel James H. Harvey III.
American Airlines salutes the Tuskegee Top Gun, Lieutenant Colonel James Harvey III. When American Valor returns, Allison Janney shares the story of one of the epic achievements in American history.